Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel by me, the Wise James. Just another reaction to this week's Prime Minister's Question Time. This one's about the spring statement, so I might have to make a separate video covering her statement at 12:30, so that'll be separate to this one. So we're just waiting on LBC's stream to start so I can cover it, and we'll get into it. Shouldn't be too long. Got myself a nice cup of tea here, all ready for this week's bullshit. Yorkshire tea, of course. Of course. Only the best for the Pope. Should be on any second now. Let's have a look. It's supposed to be at 12 o'clock, you know. So, currently on 12. Are they running late? Are they tardy for Prime Minister's Question Time? That is unacceptable. Obviously, I could just cut this part out, but you might as well see the human side of me. I am a human after all. That is loud.
May I welcome the delegation from Bring Back Kids Initiative to the gallery. The abduction of Ukrainian children is grotesque. And the UK...
So is the abduction of UK citizens under the Mental Health Act when they're not mentally unwell.
Will play our full part to bring them home. It's a stark reminder that any peace settlement must see Russia held accountable for their deplorable actions. Mr. Speaker, this morning I have meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under this Labour government, NHS waiting lists are down 5 months in a row. Yeah. And the Hospital of St Cross in my constituency...
I mean, that is all well and good, but I'd like to point out I've been waiting probably over 13, 14 months for an ADHD appointment. No. Assessment, I should say. So there's still a lot of work to be done, as I'm sure they know.
Rugby is playing its part, but many of my constituents remain concerned about the long waits in A&E that they're experiencing, that we inherited from the Conservatives, especially those who have to travel to the General Hospital in Coventry. So will the Prime Minister set out how our plan for change to bring the NHS back into the heart of government will help us to support the front line, deliver better emergency care, closer to the community that our constituents have long called for?
Mr. Speaker, our plan for change already cut NHS waiting lists by almost 200,000. That's 5 months in a row during the winter months. The local trust waiting lists in his area are down 93%, and he's doing a great job for his community. We've already delivered 2 million extra appointments that we promised because of the record investment in the budget. The party opposite can't have it both ways. If they welcome NHS investment, they can't criticise raising the money to pay for it.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, in 30 minutes, we will hear the Chancellor's emergency budget.
Yes, we will. I guarantee you she's going to say, oh, well, we don't know what it is and why we're changing it, when we do know. She said it the last 2 weeks in a row. I could be wrong. Let's see.
Even the Home Secretary's husband calls it an emergency budget. As she scrambles to fix the mess she made last October. But first, Let's turn to another government minister who is making a mess of her brief, the Education Secretary. Why did Labour MPs vote against banning phones in schools last week?
Prime Minister.
Because it's completely unnecessary.
It's not unnecessary. I'm sorry. That's rubbish. That is rubbish, Starmer. Right? Kids should not have mobile phones in schools. Look, I'm part of the generation where mobile phones started coming into schools. I was part of the generation where we were the first children in high schools to have mobile phones. In fact, I was the first person in my year to have a colour phone because every mobile phone was black and white, but my one had an orange backlight. I think it was a Motorola. It was still black and white, but it had an orange backlight, which meant, technically speaking, I had the first colour phone in my year. And literally, it caused no end of trouble. Like, we went from having barely disrupted lessons, apart from, troublemakers like me clowning around, to girls suddenly getting a message from their boyfriend in the middle of the lesson, and she starts bursting out into tears and then storms out the room. Like, we don't need mobile phones in schools, and if it's a security reasons, then that just proves we need to invest more in the police and security. Like, I'm sorry, children have no reason to have a mobile phone in school. They're there to learn and then go home. There's no reason they should have mobile phones in school. Starmer is clearly just biased to his own children for some reason. I don't know. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. What else has he got to say?
I've got teenage children. Almost every school bans phones in school. They do it already. We need to concentrate on what's really...
Make it law. Make it enforced. Schools don't enforce it. They don't have the resources to enforce it. So regardless of if it's banned in all schools, there's still kids in school on Facebook and on YouTube every day, sitting in lessons. Remove the possibility. Make it law. Literally, make it law.
Really important here, which is getting to the content that children shouldn't be accessing. That's where I would genuinely like to work across the House, because I think there's a huge amount of work to do. But the battle is...
He does make a good point. For example, you've got the owners of Call of Duty and Battlefield, for example. They are letting loads of children play their games, and they are too young to play the games because they're like 17 plus. Yet you've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds playing these games. They're not legally old enough to buy and play online openly about it, and nothing's done. There's no enforcement of these rules. Like, when I was a kid, if you wanted an 18 game, you had to go into Blockbusters and trick the cashier into thinking you were 18 because you were so tall for a 15-year-old, they would let you buy. And sometimes they didn't care, if you were like 16, 17, you buy an 18 game or an 18 movie, people didn't care. But they didn't let you buy alcohol or cigarettes. And realistically, social media and things needs to have an age restriction of 18, I think. You should have to be 18 to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, any of it. 18. That's what I think, personally. But, I'm just a crazy guy.
Not with schools that are already banning phones in school. The battle, and this is an important emerging battle, is to work together to ensure that we can ensure that the content that children are accessing, wherever they are, is suitable for their age.
Mr. Speaker, we can look at the content, but if the ban is unnecessary, then why is it that they've started a review? Just last week, his Education Secretary called a ban a bit gimmick, yet teachers and head teachers say the evidence already shows that schools that ban phones get better results. And he's wrong. Not all schools do this. Only 1 in 10 schools are smartphone free. So will he U-turn on this?
We need to ensure that all schools do this, but the vast majority do.
See that? Yeah. You know what really bothers me about Starmer is he's a guy who has made his entire career about being a lawyer and enforcing the law, for example, being head of the CPS, yet our legal system and law system is in the worst state you can imagine. Like, they don't call him two-tier care for nothing. It's because people get treated differently in our legal system, although it's not his fault. But, like, if he's going to pretend he's this legally capable guy, he's going to need to make sure the laws are enforced. And laws are not being enforced in this country. Like, the police are underfunded. Let's be honest. They're underfunded. Much as I hate them. Dickheads.
It is really important that we focus on the battle we have to have with mobile phones, which is the content that children are able to access. And we need to ensure that that is controlled wherever they are. So it's a question of having the right battle on the right issue, not wasting time on something where almost all schools are already banning mobile phones.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised that the Prime Minister would say this. His own government evidence says that phones disrupt nearly half of GCSE classes every single day. Discipline is the #1 issue in many schools. Under the Conservatives, schools became twice as likely to be good or outstanding after going through our behaviour programme. So why did the Education Secretary abolish that programme?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the record of the last government. Under their watch, a third of children started school without appropriate level development, and that is not being able to use a knife and fork. A quarter left primary school without the required standard of reading, writing and maths, and 1 in 5 was regularly absent. That's why we're pushing up standards, more information from Ofsted, transparency for parents, more interventions where schools need it.
Mr. Speaker, he's not answering the question about discipline in schools because he doesn't care about discipline in schools. Everything he does is ideological, and his decisions are costing schools so much. The national insurance hike means every state school in the country has to pay more for teachers. The Education Secretary promised to compensate schools in full for the jobs tax. Why hasn't it happened?
Prime Minister.
You know what it is? I really hate to compliment a Tory, but the last 2 weeks I've hammered the Tory leader for doing nothing but emotional manipulation of subjects, which was weak in my opinion, quite pathetic. But this week she's doing rather well. It's all about good policies. It's about good subjects. She's doing much better than normal. Surprising.
Mr. Speaker, it was Labour that introduced academies. We pushed up standards. And this is not ideological. I'm a parent of 2 teenage children, both of whom go to a state school. So I'm vested in this, and it matters hugely to me. Nothing ideological about it. That is why we're driving up standards, as we always have done.
Mr. Speaker, he didn't answer the question about compensating schools for the jobs tax. That is costing schools a lot of money. The CEO of the United Learning Group says the grant that they gave is 20% short. Some schools will face shortfalls of up to 35%. Can he guarantee that no teacher will lose their job as a result of his jobs tax?
She knows he can't guarantee that. She knows he can't. That's why she's done that. She knows he can't guarantee that.
Speaker, of this government at the budget that put a record amount into our schools, just as we put a record amount into our NHS and into our public services. We were utterly failed under the last government. But yet again, she wants all the benefits, the NHS, but she can't say how she's going to pay for it. That's what got us into the mess in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, the whole House will have heard that he could not guarantee the teachers' jobs.
See, I hate it, but I literally just said she hadn't done the emotional manipulation, and now she has. Now, normally she appeals to the public's ideology on emotional manipulation, and the House. On this one, she has specifically tried to appeal to the other MPs in the House emotionally that he can't guarantee something. But they all know he can't guarantee that. Nobody can guarantee that no teacher will lose their job when there's drastic changes to the education system. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absurd. She's paid a lot of money and she's supposed to be resolving the problems for the UK and holding the government to account. And all she's doing is pushing her party's agenda, which is to get private schools more money. Like, come on. They don't like the new tax of, what, VAT, was it? They've got to pay VAT because they were exempt before. And they're all kicking off about it. Fuck's sake. You know, rich people lose a little bit of money and they kick the fuck off. You take everything from the poor and the rich will be like, oh, you know, you'll be fine. You know, it's just... It's unbelievable, this world, sometimes. Each one of these people in this room are literally getting hundreds of thousands of pounds of free benefits from the taxpayer in food, benefits like accommodation. And they're such hypocrites. They are such hypocrites, honestly.
Are safe. Not only is he taxing schools, he's also lowering standards. He talks about our record. I'll tell him what our record was. Under the Conservatives, English schools shot up the international league tables, while schools in Labour-run Wales, standards fell.
The Tories were falsifying economic figures, so I'm not being funny. The whole of the world and the British public cannot trust their educational figures. Like... I will say one good thing that the Tories did. Rishi Sunak raised the age of maths being a requirement in education to 18 from 16 because the UK was falling behind mathematics-wise. That was a good thing. Kids are going to hate it, obviously. We would have hated it if we were that young. 2 extra years of maths, we would have hated it. But it won't kill them, and it'll make them, hopefully, more successful in life. Compared to other countries who also have that. So I like that. That was one thing I did like the Tories did, educational-wise. But everything else, I don't think we should be allowing anyone who wants to go to university, as long as they can pay the debt back, to go. It used to be the case that you were rewarded if you were exceptional. Not everyone went to university. Not everyone could go to university. Only the best got to go. Now, if you're willing enough to get the debt, anyone can go. Basically, anyone. Like, it's not an elite bracket where if you've got a degree, you're now more employable than someone else or more intelligent. In fact, most times, people have just been stupid enough to get the debt and then they've got the same job they could have had without the degree and now they've got 50 grand's worth of debt. The education system was changed from breeding success and excellence to money farming foreign and local students, essentially. It's a money farm. It's not an educational system to make the young people of the country and people who want to learn better. It's basically rip your eyeballs out for a piece of paper. When you could learn everything that the university would teach you without the university these days. You literally don't even need it. You can use Google, you can go to libraries, you can rent books, you can speak to people, you can go to lectures, you can go to seminars. You don't actually need university, if I'm honest, anymore. Like, you really don't. Employers value experience more anyway, so I don't think you need university. It's just a scam. I think it's good, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's a money scam these days. It's not a privilege. It's a lifelong debt.
Academy freedoms led to the biggest improvement of standards in a generation, but the Education Secretary is attacking them with her reforms. Can the Prime Minister point to any evidence at all, that these discredited academy reforms will improve school standards?
Prime Minister.
Yes, take the example of schools going into academies. The vast majority of schools are already academies. Therefore, we need to think again about what we do about failing schools that are already academies. We need to go on to the next chapter. And they never take the big decisions, and that's why we ended up their record. Open borders, which she was the cheerleader for, a crashed economy, mortgages through the roof, the NHS on its knees, hollowed out armed forces, and what have we got already under this government? 2 million extra NHS appointments, 750 Safety Breakfast Club, including one in her constituency, record numbers of people being returned who shouldn't be here, and fully funded increase in defence spending. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently visited Harlow College and saw the work they were doing training the bricklayers and electricians of the future. Would the Prime Minister agree with me that the work that FE colleges like Harlow College do is vital for the house building that we need for future generations? And what will his government do to support Harlow's next generation?
Prime Minister.
I don't know if any of you out there have ever tried like some sort of jobs like bricklaying or electricians or any sort of manual labouring jobs. But like I've worked in call centres, I've worked in fast food, I've worked in fashion retail, I've worked in emergency services, I've worked in billing departments for contact centres, technical support departments, sales departments. I've worked for KFC, I've worked in a sandwich shop, I've worked as a bartender. By far the hardest job was the labourer. Like, the most mentally draining is call centre work. Being a labourer was far easier mentally than a call centre job because you're not having to deal with the emotional stress of every person's life going on at that time. Because every 10 minutes you've got some guy ringing you like, oh, my life's over because I can't contact Subway on Facebook because my internet's off. Or on Christmas, when you work in a Christmas ship for like Sky, everyone's ringing you up saying how you've ruined their Christmas because they were too thick to understand how to connect their new devices for their children. And so instead of taking accountability in front of their kids and saying, look, I don't know how to do it, this guy's going to help you, although some do, they then blame you as Sky for ruining their kids' Christmas because, you know, they don't take accountability for themselves and they teach their children that. And they're the sort of children who go out into the world, who do shit, and then they don't take responsibility for their actions. And them sort of people ring up on Christmas to Sky and be like, you ruined my Christmas because my broadband won't connect to this new device I bought. Honestly, I've had hundreds of calls on Christmas days from people blaming me for ruining their Christmas because they were too thick to connect to fucking Wi-Fi on their new devices. Sorry, I had to get this out there. Stresses me out, honestly. People stress me out. Call centre work, mentally far more draining than labourer work, but manual labour is far harder than any other job I've done. So people like electricians and bricklayers, you know, gardeners, fucking warehouse workers, these sorts of people deserve a lot of respect, you know, and we need a lot of them. We need a lot of builders. We need a lot of electricians. We're getting more electronics, so we're going to need more electricians. And we're going to be building more, so we're going to need more bricklayers. And these people should be very well paid. They deserve pensions. They deserve security in their jobs. And they deserve a good future like everyone else. But sometimes these people are treated as less of by office workers. And then office workers are treated by the manual labour community as like privileged weaklings, essentially. You know, in a luxury air-conditioned office, sitting on a desk, not doing any work really at all. And it's just another culture war to divide us against the real enemy, who is those who control and dictate our lives and cause these problems. Like, I'm sick of everyone being so divided, man. I'm so sick of it. Why can't you all just get along, man? I know it sounds so hippie-ish, but can't you all just fucking get along a bit more? Disagreement is healthy. Disagreement is normal. That builds a healthy relationship, because if you can disagree with someone and then still laugh it off and get on as if nothing's happened, even though you just disagree on this one subject, that's a healthy relationship. You shouldn't be friends with people who agree with everything you say. You won't learn a fucking thing. Like, not learn a damn thing. I was getting called a woke liberal before people even knew what woke liberals were by some of my racist friends. You know who you are. You fucking know who you are.
He's a great champion for his constituents. We are investing £600 million to train up to 60,000 more skilled house builders so we can support the next generation and deliver 1.5 million new homes. We're creating...
I mean, that is the point, like, you can't have 1.2 million houses being built every year and want to build more and more houses, but then we haven't got the builders to do it, right? That's why immigrants come in. And that's when you start requiring immigrants. This is why we required immigration in the first place, and this is why we often do require immigration, because we don't train workers we need. So we have to import the talent we don't have, unfortunately. That's why even most of us are here.
Technical excellence colleges and investing in Stansted Airport, creating 5,000 jobs nearby, which will create more opportunities for young people in Harlow.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Red David.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The British drama Adolescence has shone a much-needed spotlight on the enormous damage being done by social media to the minds of many of our young people, especially teenage boys. Yeah. We've argued social media giants should be much more toughly regulated and pay more tax so we can defend our young people from this harm. But we've had disturbing reports that the government is considering scrapping the digital services tax and watering down Britain's online safety legislation to appease President Trump and his co-president, Elon Musk. So will the Prime Minister today categorically rule out both of these things and make it clear that he will guarantee that British laws on tax and social media will be written in this House and not the White House?
Well, yes, of course, as he well knows. On the point he makes about online safety, it is important. There are new measures coming in the next few months which are very important under the Act, and we need to see whether we can go further on this issue, because there are concerns as to whether they go far enough. But will the laws be made in this place? Of course they will.
Red David.
Well, I'm grateful for the Prime Minister's reply on the...
So, let me just point out, Ed Davey will have gotten a copy of what was going to be said at Prime Minister's Question Times by Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Tory party, before this. And he's seen this point where she's asked, an answer everyone already knows the answer to. A question everyone already knows the answer to. Can he guarantee no teacher will lose their job due to these educational system changes? Which nobody could guarantee. Nobody could. Nobody would, who had any brain cells. He's just done the same thing there. Just one sec.
So, of course, this issue, because there are...
Red David.
Well, I'm grateful for the Prime Minister's reply on the social media laws, but he didn't answer the point on the digital services tax, and we will come back to that.
Just wait.
But moving on, Mr. Speaker, after President Trump's national security advisor accidentally added a journalist to a group chat that was discussing military action in Yemen, and given, I think, all the concerns that we share about President Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin and J.D. Vance's insulting disdain for Britain and our armed forces, will the Prime Minister make it clear that he will order an urgent review into the security of the intelligence that we share with the United States? An urgent make it clear that he will...
in Windermere, quite serious. But
I think I missed something there. One second. I think I missed something there.
Sort of, the honourable gentleman would like to think of himself as sort of reasonable, and when he's not jumping in Windermere, quite serious. But unpicking our relations with the US on defence and security is neither responsible nor serious.
So, judges.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Medina.
Let me be honest, right? If I was sitting in Keir Starmer's position, I would have said the same thing. But behind closed doors, you can guarantee we would be second-guessing what we are sharing with the Americans when it comes to certain vital intelligence, but only when it comes to certain subjects of significance, not when it comes to general things like terrorism and that sort of thing, because we have got an effective defence alliance with the United States, and we need to utilise that to ensure both of our countries are as safe as possible. But when it has been shown that they have leaked national security discussions that nobody else should have seen, It's no surprise to me or anyone else in this country. We have watched, I don't think it was Suella Braverman, it was the lady before her, I can't remember her name, but she sent a similar email, not of such severity, but an email that was of national security level importance. I think from her private email or to a private email. So she wrongly sent it to an unsecured email, and then she was forced to resign from it. And then she was forced to resign or got sacked as Secretary of State or whatever that was. And then she basically got a promotion 2 weeks later. So she got sacked for doing this whole thing that Americans have just done. And then she got a promotion 2 weeks later. So it's of no surprise to us. It's literally of absolutely no surprise to us in the UK that the US has leaked secure documents all the time to journalists because they're all after a quick payday. So sometimes, you got some crackhead in government who wants some easy fix. They'll sell a classified document to a journalist or something, People are selfish bastards. This is the world we live in. This is what... There is corruption at the very highest levels in all governments across the planet. And you can guarantee that 99% of us, if we were in the same position, also might then be part of the corruption. As they say, power corrupts, but absolute power absolutely corrupts. It's the same with money. If you get like a really poor person who becomes rich and wealthy, they'll suddenly start being pretentious and thinking they're too good for this food or too good for that clothes or this sort of crap. Oh, I'm not buying secondhand stuff. I'm too good for that. Pretentious shit, I can't remember how this started. But anyway, the point is...
Tina from Lyminge in my constituency is registered blind, and she recently told me how she had been failed by the broken social security system left behind by the Conservatives. She faced great difficulties in getting support from access to work, which is essential across my Ashford constituency, and was not helped to find paid employment. It is so important that disabled people who want to work are supported to do so. Yeah. What is the Prime Minister's message to Medina and others like her who have been abandoned and shut out of employment for far too long?
Yeah. Well, every person should have the right to work, and we will always protect the most severely disabled and those with lifelong health conditions. For Medina and the 200,000 others like her who can work and want to work, we need to support them. And that's why we're investing £1 billion in personalised tailoring employment programmes and introducing the right to try work guarantee. The party opposite failed over...
Sounds silly, but that's something I will actually look at myself because realistically, I would love to work a good job and get paid and all that sort of stuff. I love it, but with schizophrenia and hypothymesia, I'm constantly tortured by sound all the time. I've had it my whole life. I just thought everyone had voices, right? It turns out I was the only one with voices. And hypothymesia just gives me... I'm basically tortured by my memories, so... it's almost like post-traumatic stress disorder, but not so severe, but more frequent. I'm literally constantly tortured by my own memories because my memory is that fucking good. So it's ridiculous. And I would love to go try and work a full-time job, and would have loved to many times over the last few years when I've even been severely mentally unwell. But there was no way to do it without risk. And unfortunately, this try work thing might be the ticket, because it might be the case that someone like me can hold down a new job for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and everything's fine. But then we have one of our bad days, and you might not be able to work that day, okay? You literally might not be able to work. It might be better and safer for everyone else around you that you don't work. And then you would get penalised for that. You would lose your job. Then you've got to wait 8 weeks for benefits, which means you can't afford to pay for your child's food. You can't even afford for your own food. You can't afford gas. You can't afford electric. All because you tried to work. So it's not as simple as people think where, just because you can work sometimes, you can just go look for a job and get one. Like, I could literally probably walk out that door right now and find a job within a week. But because I have such severe mental health problems, it's not the getting the job that's the problem for me. It's the keeping the job that is the problem for me. That is the problem. And it's always been the problem. I've had some of the best jobs you can imagine. I've worked for Apple. I've worked for Sage. I've set records at various companies for various different reasons. Like 12 weeks of 100% customer satisfaction at Sky when I was a technical support agent because I'm just good at my job. And things like this, And the reward was always the females who were in with their team managers were getting promoted. And agents like me, who were the best performing, the hardest working, who were basically carrying the department, we were never rewarded. We were used and kept where we are to make the managers who were above us look like they were doing a better job than they really were. And the thing is, hard work is supposed to pay. And I have worked so hard sometimes, I broke records. And then records still stand at these companies. They will never be broken. That 12 weeks, 100% customer satisfaction at Sky will never be broken. You will never be able to do that again. Because I used the loophole in the system that they fixed after I did it. Like, you'll never be able to do that. I have that record forever. No one will beat that. No one, okay? And my reward was redundancy. So I had to go work for KFC. Who, because I had an injury, a sciatic nerve damage injury, and the manager went on holiday and didn't tell the new one, put me on a delivery shift, caused me loads of trouble, and I couldn't literally work. I was in so much pain from after that delivery shift. I couldn't stand. I could barely even do anything. And so my hours went from 40 hours a week at KFC to 0 hours for 2 weeks. And then from that time onwards, I only got like 4, 6, 8 hours every week, maybe 2 weeks. So like, because I had stood up for myself, KFC made me starve. I couldn't afford rent, so I was made homeless. And then the Tories changed housing benefit, all right? So I went and got an apprenticeship because KFC did this. So I went and got an apprenticeship for a company called Low Carbon Lighting, and I managed their office and their communication systems as a business administrator, right? Really good job, though very low paid apprenticeship. And I enjoyed it. I helped them build some of the lights. Some of them LED light boards that I helped build will be in some street somewhere in the northeast of England or some garage or warehouse. And I'll be there for the next 20 years. And I enjoyed working there. But the Tories changed housing benefit and didn't include apprenticeships as entitled. And the very words they used were, people's mums and dads will pay their rent or help with their rent. They had clearly never met my mum and dad. They wouldn't pay for me if I needed an operation to save my life. Never mind pay my rent. Don't be so silly. Don't be so silly. So, because they didn't include apprenticeships and I'd been made redundant by Sky, took on an apprenticeship, I got made homeless. So, I just set records for Sky, got made redundant, got a new job at KFC. Like, because I had an injury, I was literally almost physically disabled with my sciatic nerve damage. Stood up for myself. The Tories had removed legal rights due to the 0 hour contracts. So, couldn't work basically that day when they needed me the next day from the delivery shift. And I was punished for it. So, because I then wasn't getting enough money to live and pay my rent and things, I went and got an apprenticeship. Because I wanted a change of direction. I thought, I'll do something else, I'll manage businesses. I'll manage people's offices. It's no problem, really. It's quite easy. So I did that. And then I got made homeless because the Tories changed the housing benefit system and thought my mum and dad would pay my rent for me. Like, some people don't even have a mum and dad. Who's going to pay their rent? So it took like 6 to 8 months for them to include the apprenticeships as entitled to housing benefit. But the damage was done. Some people with diabetes died because they couldn't get the insulin. Some people died from exposure in the streets from being made homeless. And nobody got charged. Nobody was reprimanded. If I caused thousands of females and males to become homeless and destitute because I didn't consider them as a possible problem to my policy, I would be held as manslaughter charges. I would be put in prison. But these fuckers, oh no, they just skip along down the fucking Downing Street Road. La 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 la, we're doing a great job. No, you're fucking not. No, you're not. Honestly, it's a joke. Them Tories fuck this country up so bad. And I understand Labour having to fix it. It's why I'm so nice about them. I don't want to be nice about them because they're not doing great things decisions-wise, but these decisions have to be made. But that was my point. So no matter how hard I worked, I was stifled at every turn. Redundancy. Fucked over from workers' rights. And then the government changed the benefit system and didn't include me as entitled, even though I was only earning £200 a month. I wasn't entitled to any housing benefit. Like, it was a joke. It was literally a joke. I was managing an entire office. I was building them LED lights. I was managing every letter, email, phone call. I managed their entire Sage systems because I'd worked for Sage. I'm a very hard worker. But unfortunately, sometimes, especially when I had my severe sciatic nerve damage, I was in so much pain, I literally couldn't work. Can you imagine like the toothache level of pain you have? Imagine that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's never going away. That was what my 14 years of sciatic nerve damage was like. And the Tories didn't make it any easier. I didn't get any physiotherapy help going back to work. I didn't get any support from the DWP. I got nothing. I got made out to be the problem, when all I tried to do was work hard. But unfortunately, I was born with certain conditions where I might need a day off, or I can't work that day. And unfortunately, employers can't have that. So they just don't hire you. And if they do, they use every means and method to get rid of you, including social ostracization in the office, bullying, harassment, that sort of thing, discrimination. There is not much winning in society when the only person who has your back is yourself. Workers have each other's backs, but not the disabled workers. Only the disabled workers have the disabled workers' backs. Men like me don't have a voice in this room. We do not have a voice in this room. At all. And I have had my life ruined by people in this room, time and time again. And I've had enough of it. I've honestly had enough. I'm not a violent man. I would never encourage anyone to be hateful or violent. But I will hold these bastards accountable for what they did to me and my family, and what they're doing to this country. That's what all this reaction videos is about. You wouldn't expect a schizophrenic to have to put up with extra stresses like that, in my opinion. It's unacceptable. And that's before I get to police failures and NHS failures. And things that, it just gets worse from that point, if I'm honest. That's the beginning of my road to insanity, was the Tories' failures to ensure a fair legal system and workers' rights, because they removed workers' rights. That's how Mike Ashley became so wealthy, because he removed all his workers' rights, and so did all the other companies, and so they made absolute fortunes from it, on the back of the blood, sweat and suffering of their underpaid and underrepresented workers. Okay? I'm going to end the video in a sec anyway. The SNP might have something funny to say. Do that bit.
Preside over a failed system that didn't help them and then blamed them. We will never do that.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, those who know me well know that I don't talk of this often, but for half of my adult life, I was physically...
What? Why did it cut Stephen Flynn off? That's not acceptable. He deserves his voice.
Will lift them out of poverty.
Look, it's completely cut it off. I swear sometimes they do this sort of shit on purpose to the SNP. I wanted to hear what he had to say. He's sometimes funny. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I will review the statement and maybe put out a video if it's worth it, but usually the statements are very boring and I don't think you'll want to hear me talk about it, to be honest, because it's not very interesting. But what is quite interesting is if you look here, there is a dog here. See there? I'm not sure if that person, if it's a guide dog or if it's an assistant dog. But I love the fact there's a dog just sitting there. A nice little Labrador, being well behaved. Absolutely smashing. Love it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.